Official board meeting. The day's date is September the 16th, and it's currently 6:30. At this time, I would like to go around and do introductions. Jason, could you start?
Jason Chance.
Joanna Doria.
Brian Bauer.
Mary Heather Noble.
Laura Hartman.
Wendy Baker, Superintendent.
Barbara Wilson.
Jim Malcolm.
Suzanne Bach.
Steve Orzak. Jamie McCallum.
And then,
And we have support.
okay, also on the board, on the Zoom.
Ellen Wheeling-Weiss.
Thank you, Ellen. And now Nicole.
Nicole Carter, Superintendent. I'm Elizabeth Stein, Director of Communications and Engagement. Courtney Carlin, Director of
Okay, thank you. No. Next on the agenda is a motion to adopt the agenda. Can I have a motion?
I'll move to adopt the agenda as printed.
Second. And if there's no objection, I would say the motion or the agenda is adopted as warned. Okay, seeing none. Next on our agenda is our public comment period on agenda items. And what I'd like to do is just invite folks to make a public comment. We welcome public comments, and we just need to make sure that they're limited to 3 minutes. And I would like to remind folks that we don't take comments regarding personnel, students, or legal matters in an open session of the board. But definitely are interested in in your comments and the public comments, and welcome them. If you would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. And also, if there's someone on Zoom, raise your Zoom hand. State your name, please.
John Finney.
Okay. And Suzanne, could you be my recorder for me?
You mean the
Timer?
I was
Yeah.
trying to find a
I can do
timer. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
So should I, I'm addressing the action item about the Ripton School.
Sure.
So my name is John Finney. I am a lifelong Ripton resident, although by some measures I'm a brand new Ripton resident, having recently returned from about 10 years overseas with my family. To open tonight, I'd just like to reiterate the statement of support that the community of Ripton issued for the entire staff of Ripton Elementary School. That was issued by a letter late last week. I hope all of the board members have received that at this point, and staff, I'm hopeful, have seen that as well. I think that it's fair to say that the community was gravely concerned about the news that some staff may not have felt that support, and that's why we thought it important to act and make that broad support clear. That support is enduring. It's been there since I was a kid attending Ripton Elementary School, and I'm confident that it will remain throughout this difficult period that we're facing at the moment. In regards to that difficult period, one observation I've had is that it does seem to be, at least in part, a culmination of a period of, I'd say, less than ideal communication, and at times that communication may have been a bit underbaked. At times that communication may have been a bit overdone and even crossed lines in periods of heightened emotion. I will say, in counter to that, though, that the events of the last couple of weeks and the amount of listening that Dr. Baker has done gives me a lot of optimism. Additionally, the commitment to monthly meetings with the Ripton community, I think it's a fantastic basis, and I applaud Dr. Baker. I think, at the risk of speaking for all parents, this is as communicated to as we felt, despite the cloud of difficult circumstances that everything. One final observation, at the risk of perhaps drifting into the dramatic, it strikes me that, and as someone who's recently returned to the community, that too often in these periods of heightened emotion, the first instinct is to draw battle lines, where one would hope the first instinct would be to rely on the shared notion of good intentions of all parties. And I'm really hopeful that with the increased communication, with a sense of a shared interest in the great outcomes for our students, that we're actually in a great position to move forward and be successful through this little period we're in and into the future. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Anyone on Zoom? If there is, just raise your Zoom hand.
Brittany, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Great. I just wanted to, as a parent, I'm Britta Perung. I'm a parent of several students at the Ripton School and also a social worker in our community. And so I guess I would just, as someone who, I don't have a kiddo in the K-2 classroom, but I again want to, just speak to my support of the Ripton School and how amazing they've been for not only my children, but also, the students. I'm tasked with working with our most vulnerable students in Addison County. As a social worker, and I know that the Ripton School has really held some of those kiddos and really want to support, just encourage the board to think about that as well and supporting those students in the Ripton School and with the kind of configured way that it is. It's really working for that group of students. So thank you.
Thank you, Britta. Anyone else would like to make a comment either in the room or on Zoom? Go ahead, Steve.
Sorry, people by my back. All right, so I got 3 minutes. So Steve Cash, I'm the parent of a second grader in Ripton, who, has been doing pretty good with the K-2 configuration that currently exists up there. Anybody who's been in school knows there's always a bit more to do, but he's been doing pretty good in spite of that challenging situation. Today's been a whirlwind. There's 2 staff that are no longer at Ripton as of today. And so it's been a lot to try and sort out what's going on. And so I've come here with a mix of emotions. One, I'm pretty frustrated with my community. I think some of the treatment of some of the educators has not been up to the level that it should be. Maybe that's something that happens in schools. I don't exactly know. I don't work in a school. That's very frustrating to me. I'm frustrated with my community for that piece of it. At the same time, I'm trying to balance what's going on here because over the past week, stuff has moved incredibly quickly. There was a board meeting last week where there's talk of K-2 configuration, what was going to go on. I heard about that on Tuesday. By Thursday, I had organized a very productive town meeting, and we got the letter of support that was sent to the board. We got all those signatures, sent that down here. And then this Sunday, there is a meeting between Dr. Baker and K-2 parents specifically to talk about this situation. This is all in the space of a week. This is a lot. So I'm talking fast. It is a lot. And it was interesting because between that Thursday meeting and the Sunday meeting, it appears my emails to the superintendent got lost somehow in cyberspace. I think that can happen, but I also was kind of like, that's interesting. I'm not sure where. And it was also reported to the superintendent that was an unproductive meeting. There were some hard conversations there. There's a lot of different opinions in education. You all probably know that. And there was some real progress. So I was surprised to hear that report. And then kind of most interestingly, there was no second grade staff at that meeting with the second grade parents, which I thought was a very important piece of that puzzle. So I think tonight, what I'm very interested to hear is as everybody digs into this, I'm just really curious to understand what is going on. And, is this a situation that we've just wound up at? Or is there some more to this story? And I really hope as the board dives into this issue, you can sort that out. I can't. And so I just encourage all of you to use those powers to try and sort out what is kind of going on. And if this is a quiet kind of attempt to get grades out of Ripton and close the school, that's going to be really hard. And I might be out over my skis. And I hope you guys tonight prove to me that I am. I don't know how much time I have left. Who's time? Oh,
You're up.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, anyone else? Yes.
Yep, I'm John Wetzel, also of Ripton, also here to talk about the what's been going on, I want to reiterate both what John and Steve said. Our support of faculty and staff and how fast this has moved. And this is extreme action that's being taken with about a week, at least, at most, of us being aware of. And I don't know if that's true for everybody here as well, but just like Steve said, like if like I don't know, the fact that Miss C and Melissa, like people feeling that there's things going wrong and us not knowing, we care about our school. I think we've proven that. We care about our community. The school is a pillar of the community. And it's an important piece of where we are. It's just like our general store. It's just like our fire station. Like it's a part of who we are. So it's very obvious like that removing in a small school, you're going to take away classes. That's an attempt to close the school faster. And we have worked really hard. We've shown our commitment to it. So there's obviously a lot that's happened that I am completely unaware of. And I don't know if you are, but like it's been very fast. So to close, to take away grades is an extreme action, is my point. And I would think that there would be certain protocol or certain things in place or certain attempts to be made before getting to this point. This is like from 0 to 100 right away. And it's why weren't there steps taken? Like what was going on? Like that's not my job to figure out. And a lot of it is, in any event, like how did we get from 0 to 100 so quickly? How did we get to this point so quickly? It's something that maybe should be looked at to maybe handle this in a better way in the future. And because it could have been prevented, there's no doubt about that to get to this space, right, as it is now. Because obviously there's a lack of communication. And I feel that if we were given any warnings, any signs of like, hey, there's stuff going on, or like earlier, like we want to support the school, we want it to work. A lot of people do, most people do. And so in our community, and we will do what it takes. We will volunteer. We will do, like it's always been a part and a thread of the community. So I just ask that you take the time, for one, not make any rash decisions, feeling like reactionary decisions, because when you react, that's when mistakes are made, versus making educated, smart decisions that are thought about.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, Samantha Eisenberger, Ripton. I just want to say one comment, just to segue from the threads that have already been shared. Let us also remember the children and the impact on the children this could have. All I can think about is if you move K1 out of the school so abruptly, Meg just left, Melissa resigned, how are we supporting the kids in this community that are a month into school? How are you going to explain it to them? I think that's really important because they have a lot of awareness. They're watching what's going on. How they are treated in this process matters. So please consider that as you make decisions moving forward.
Thank you. Anyone else online? Yes.
3 on 10.
Yes.
2.
Okay.
One.
One. Bill? Is that
I can't see.
I can't see.
Bill,
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes. Go ahead.
My name is Bill Hunsinger. I'm not a parent of a kid in Ripton School, but my daughter is due to start kindergarten next year at Ripton School. And I can't say that I know much about the immediate situation that the board is dealing with, but I would ask that we consider the long term here and the message that's sending to parents whose kids are not yet of school age, but will be school age shortly. It impacts not just Ripton, but the families throughout the ACSD community when we are having conversations like this. And just because we're not in these schools every day does not make our voices less important. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Um, what's the first name? Tamara?
Johnson.
Tammy?
Top one.
Go ahead, Tammy, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I'm an elementary school counselor at Ripton, Cornwall, and Salisbury in the district, and I'm feeling really emotional. In a time when we're focusing on belonging in our district, I'm kind of stunned with what's happening at Ripton School. Even as a staff member, I don't really actually know all of what's happening. I want to say that the school is served by really dedicated professionals. I know all schools are, but I've been a part of this community for 6 years and really seen people come together. There's been some really tough kids that have come through the district there who otherwise probably would have been in a residential program. So honestly, I think Ripton has saved the district quite a bit financially. I care about the kids and their families and the professionals in the school, and I'm really feeling heartbroken, not understanding what's happening and why 2 people who are super dedicated have just resigned in one day. So I just needed to say that. Thanks.
Thank you. And is that Suzanne?
Susan.
Susan.
Susan, can you hear us?
Susan?
Go ahead.
Is she muted?
No?
Now she
Now
is.
she
Now
is.
she is. Now she isn't.
Susan? We can't hear you if you're speaking.
Hello?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Hi. I'm Susan Ogilvie. I teach 4th and 5th grade. I'm a longtime teacher and resident of Ripton. With the utmost respect, our parents and community are absolutely our superpower at Ripton School. While I've been a little bit on the fringes of this situation, it really was revealed to us last week, some of the details, and honestly, I am absolutely shocked. I'm floored by what has happened. I am devastated by the events of today. I feel very much like what some other community members had said. It feels at this point to be able to move forward. We really need more communication so that everybody understands what's going on. It's an extremely difficult situation, and we just have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful school, and it's something we all value and treasure. Our parent community have historically worked together and solved insurmountable obstacles together, and I know this is something that we can solve as well. I feel like the pressure of making a decision tonight is a little bit too fast. So again, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Susan.
Susan.
Susan. It's okay.
I used to call you Susan.
I know, and I always said Suzanne.
So sorry. Is there another hand?
Yes. Meredith.
Meredith, thank you.
Hi, can folks hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Hi, my name's Meredith Dunsmore Pratt. I am, like John, I am a lifelong Ripton resident, speaking just after my former teacher, Ms. O. And I just want to echo the sentiments that people have shared about the dedication of the staff. I have, my older son could be called one of those tough kiddos. He has some challenges. The Ripton School has changed his life. It's changed my life as his mother. I cannot tell you how held and supported I have felt by the staff, all of them. They've been tremendous, and it is such a gift for my kiddos to attend a small school where people know their names, they know their personalities, they understand their likes and dislikes and their needs. I understand, and I've always understood that we may be on borrowed time at Ripton Elementary in terms of school consolidation and how long a school like ours might be able to stay afloat. But I do also share the same sadness and devastation about, I guess, sort of just the animus that has risen up within the discussion. the conflict. I'm a parent who also felt like my second grader was doing pretty good in the new classroom configuration, and I had hoped we would just be able to ride it out and see how it went. So I just want to share my support for school staff and reiterate my love for this community. I know we can all get through this together, but I just wanted to share my support and thank you for having us tonight.
Thank you so much. Anyone else on Zoom or in the room that would like to make a comment?
There's another Zoom.
Is Joe Jeannie? Sorry, I can't read that far away.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jeannie Cash. I'm a parent of a second grader at Ripton. And I just wanted to speak tonight in support of his teacher. I feel like my son has received an excellent education under her the last 2 years, and that he is a more intelligent, confident, considerate little human being coming out from under her care and her lessons. And I hope that she hears this and that she realizes that there is support for her within our school, and our kids are receiving what I feel is a very high level of education. I don't think it's lacking one bit. The ways that she's evolved her teaching and her classroom and the routines to accommodate for second grade, while I know everybody was apprehensive about them, I've seen nothing but a lot of thought and care to roll out new new rest routines, shorter rest to accommodate for maturing second graders so that they're not so reliant on that. I've seen evolution of the number corner to be set at curriculum level that's appropriate for them, and then they're sharing the task, the smaller, simpler tasks of updating it with the kindergartners. They're receiving a level of being the older kids in the class to help out, and they're really enjoying that opportunity. I know my son is, her background and education makes her the prime person to do this, and I just feel that she's done really well, and I hope she hears that tonight. She's an incredible woman and an incredible teacher. This does feel very fast, and I'm in unison with community. I'm feeling disappointed in that there's people who experienced hurt in our community and school, and this does feel, to echo Susan's comment, it does feel all very fast, and I'm really surprised at how soon it's being evaluated.
Jeannie, I have to call. It's
Okay.
over 3
Yes,
minutes.
I know.
I'm
I
so
know it's
sorry.
not good at keeping a stopwatch like Steve. Sorry. I'm sure he's like, hurry it up. All right. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Jeannie. Sarah? Go ahead, Sarah. We're not hearing you.
Can we give Karen a shot and come back to us?
Yeah, so we'll come back to you, Sarah. For some reason, the community, or we're not hearing you, so we'll come back. Aaron?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Erin Robinson. I am an employee of the Ripton School. I also have 2 kids at the Ripton School in 3rd and in 5th. I just want to also echo the sentiments of all the other Ripton folks who have spoke before me and will probably speak more eloquently than I can, but I just want to say how saddened I am by this whole situation. I feel like there's been a lot of conversations, but not many that involved everybody at once, and things are really fast tracked right now. And I'm really concerned about the fact that there hasn't been any sort of mediation offered amongst the staff or amongst parents and staff. And I feel like we need to have some stronger processes in place before things like this come to, like a decision with such heavy weight comes across the board's desk. And I'm devastated that we weren't able to provide that for a teacher who's been with us for so long and has helped both of my kids, and I know a lot of kids, get to where they are at Ripton Elementary School today. I feel like we, ACSD, and us as Ripton employees, to a sense, have failed them by not being able to provide that. And I just really hope that we can push the pause button on whatever is to be decided tonight in light of today's news. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Sarah, we're going to come back to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yay! Sorry about that. So I just want to piggyback off of all of the incredible Ripton parents that have showed up in person and virtually this evening. I think it's very clear that we all love and value the Ripton school community wholeheartedly. This past week has been very emotional for many parents involved for many different reasons. For one, my daughter just started preschool at Mary Hogan, and I've always had the dream that she would be able to go to pre-K at Ripton. Those answers about pre-K have always fell flat about pre-K coming back to Ripton. And that sort of starts the lack of communication, and the core of the frustration from Ripton parents is not the Ripton school itself, is not the teachers and the education, the amazing education they have provided for our children, but it's the lack of respect that parents have been shown. There have been countless unanswered emails from Meg. There have been times where I have expressed her. Yes.
During public comments, we don't want to really get into issues regarding personnel. So if you could please refrain from doing that, that would be great.
I apologize. So basically, a lot of the frustration doesn't stem from the K-2 configuration. It stems from the parents wondering how a 3-grade configuration works. Never questioning if they could do it, but as parents, we're curious how this worked. We presented a petition back in June. I sent it to the superintendent, and that never got a response. Meg and I had a follow-up conversation. There was a follow-up conversation, and she thanked me, and I felt that there was progress. From there was no further response, and it felt that parents' concerns were dismissed, and parent support was never forwarded to the teaching staff involved. So I think there was a big disconnect there. I think that drove a wedge between parents and the staff because no one was getting the same information across the board.
Your time? I'm sorry, Sarah. I have to call your time. Thank you. Any other public comments in the room or on Zoom? I have one in the room. Go ahead.
Hi, Sarah Gellner. I'm a parent of a graduated into 6th grade child and a current 4th grade student. I think I'm going to piggyback off what Sarah was saying. And I also just want to make sure that we keep in mind that parents feeling shamed for advocating for their children or feeling punished for advocating for their children is completely wrong. And I hope that moving forward as a community that we don't do that and that we make sure that parents advocating for their children is good. It means that they care and it means that their kids are going to be successful in the future, and it can only help ACSD as well as they move through. So I just want to make sure that we're all in agreement that we don't want to shame or make parents feel as if this is their fault. That, you know, and that if this K-1 decision is made, to just really make it clear to the community as a whole that this decision was made not because parents, you know, had questions, but because this was a decision from ACSD about the education. Okay, that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comments? Seeing none? Okay, thanks everyone for being here tonight and offering your public comment. It's important, and I really appreciate you being here and being willing to voice what's on your heart and, you know, speaking your, you know, what you wanted to hear us, wanted us to hear. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, so getting back to the agenda, the next item is a recommendation to approve minutes of August 26th and September 9th. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any comments? So if there's no objection, I would like to accept the minutes as submitted. Moving on to, we are noisy tonight. There's all kinds of chirps, sorry. Next is approve ACSD bills, and I'm going to turn it over to Chip.
First off, we didn't actually vote on action item with the bills last time because of the meeting. So first off, I'd like to move that we approve those bills as stated in the minutes that I read to you last time. And I guess the second motion would be bills were read today by Jason and myself. So we'll just do those two while we're here.
Awesome.
The first of the bills read today was a payroll of warrant of $1,292,578.14. And the second is a general fund of $1,031,383.95. Of that, there was a substantial amount that was related to the bread loaf at the Mary Hogan School. And there were also quite a few of sort of first quarter expenses that relate to the pre-K expenses. So it's a bigger number than usual, but that's the reason. So, and I then would also move that we, or whatever we do, accept the bills as read for today.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions?
Sorry, can we just clarify, is that motion for both sets of bills on both days?
Right, the ones that
Yeah.
were read before and also this new group.
Thank you.
Any questions? Go.
One comment, the bread loaf invoice, there's one outstanding question that I have with Melissa, she's following up on.
Okay.
No.
I have a question, and more for the public record. Chip, can you just explain again the pre-K expense?
Well, it comes through, Matt would have to explain how it flows through, but we pay it quarterly to the different vendors, I guess you'd call them, whether it's Quarry Hill or all the other different vendors that we pay out to them, and it's done on a quarterly basis in most cases.
It's state funds that we administer and pay to pre-K providers.
It's a pass through, yeah.
Sorry. Okay, Matt, I know you're here, but it's a pass through, but it makes up, it wasn't a tremendous amount, but it happened to hit this particular cycle right now. So when we have one of these big numbers, I try to explain why it's so big rather than the usual $400,000, $500,000 number that we have every time we read the bills.
Any other questions? Okay, if there's no objection, I would indicate that the bills are approved as read by Chip for both this meeting and the previous meeting, both sets of bills. Moving forward on the agenda is report of the superintendent.
So the first part of that are the appointments for personnel and resignations. These appointments that are listed are the same ones that were listed in the September 9th agenda. This is just a matter of taking action on those. There's no new information there.
Okay, can I have a motion? Go ahead, Suzanne.
I'll move to appoint Riley Fifield, paraprofessional, 1.0 FTE, Rose Karen, paraprofessional, 1.0 FTE, Rodrigo Plasencia, world language teacher, 1.0 FTE, Mac Ratty Bicknell, varsity boys soccer coach, Eric Reed St. John, fall drama director, and Laura Stewart, paraprofessional, 1.0 FTE.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in,
Actually, it looks like the names have not been corrected again.
Plasencia.
Plasencia, and I believe it's Max, not Mac, Ratty Bicknell.
I think you're right. Yeah, we'll adjust that.
Okay, thank you.
My apologies to both. I read it, it was printed.
thank you, Steve. Okay, so if let's go ahead and we'll just do the vote on this. Let's do an amendment based on the change.
I'll amend the motion to change the pronunciation of Mac to Max with an X, Ratty Bicknell, and what was the other one?
Plasencia.
Plasencia, to drop the L off of Rodrigo's name, last name.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All those in favor of making those changes indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And thank you. And all those, okay, so now we can go to the original warning or action. All those in favor of approving the appointments as corrected, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you, Laura.
Yep.
Okay, so moving on to the next item.
So as you'll recall, last Monday we were here together, and the conversation at that time centered around my understanding that there were predominantly second grade parents that were having challenges with the K-1-2 configuration. The concern that was raised was that their students might not have access to sufficient grade level advancement in a classroom where the kindergartners and the first graders were also there, given the wide range of developmental levels and the need to manage those curricular paths. And so I brought this to you, given that it is the only classroom in Addison Central that has 3 grades, and that this was a conversation that I understand it predated me. It was begun with the community in the spring. It was a it was difficult to find consensus as to the best configuration for the school as a whole. The place where everyone landed was the K1, 2, a 3, and a 4, 5, without agreement, certainly between parents and staff, administration about how best to do this. This configuration held through the summer, and we began the school year. And early on, the concerns were still voiced. First time I was at Ripton this year was on Wednesday, on the 28th of the first week of school. I saw the K1, 2 class together. They were in library, and they included me in their lesson. I was able to talk with a couple parents at that time, it seemed that there were concerns that were definitely had lingered from the spring and were as yet unresolved. The next time I was involved in the conversation, as I shared with you last time we were together, was Thursday, September 5th, which was the first of a monthly meeting forum that Meg had envisioned to bring the parent community and any staff or administration who wished to attend together to talk about how things were going, just hopes and dreams that folks had, for that period. Tricia Allen and Emily Blistein shared that with me and shared that evening with me as I spent the night just listening to the parents that were in attendance. That concern regarding the K1, 2 classroom and the ability, regardless of the skill and respect of the professional staff at play, not being able to fulfill the curricular responsibilities for each grade in each area in a way that would assure grade level progress. That brought me to you a week ago, and that conversation was recorded, and so it's I'm sure everyone's referenced it by now. You sent me away from that conversation with some homework to reach out to the parents of kindergartners and first graders and determine if the board were to take an action, what would the impacts be and what would their choices be? How would they handle that best as a family, and what was important for us to know about that? I did that after I spoke with the staff on Tuesday last week. And during the time that I spoke with all the staff who had many questions about where we were and what was in front of them, I mentioned to them that I would appreciate the opportunity to spend time, particularly with the second grade parents, because the best circumstances are when everybody can come together and an amicable, sort of peaceful way forward presents itself. And if that could be found, that was certainly of interest to the school district and the children. So Wednesday, I met with as many kindergarten and first grade parents as could join me in person. There were a couple who needed a phone call, and I completed those over the weekend. My results of those conversations that I could report to you are that they were, I would say, highly emotional. It was not a conversation that I or they wished to be having, and I can say that should the board choose to move grades out of Ripton, there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Some of the students in those grades have teams that support them. Others, there are very specific circumstances with each family. So there is not a collective agreement about what would be best for any group, in any case. On Sunday, I received 3 emails from Steve Cash, 2 at 6:08 in the morning and 1 at 6:19 in the morning. And a couple looked as though they were referencing how maybe he had tried to reach out because he had advised me, I think on Tuesday, that he was trying to pull parents together on Thursday evening, and that he would let me know if that was a productive conversation, and if there might be some next steps after that. And had heard that I was willing to meet with second grade parents in particular, and sort of help move things forward if we could find a path together. So I hadn't heard anything until Sunday morning when those emails came in, and Steve and I immediately got on the phone with each other and said, okay, where are we? We had a good conversation about that meeting. The letter that you have in front of you was forwarded to me at that time, or I received it at that time. And we talked about the importance of providing an opportunity for second grade parents to ask their questions, express their thoughts with me if it could be arranged. And so we held a virtual meeting with only second grade parents. There were 3 families represented in that conversation, and we spent some time just talking about what was important to them and where I understood we were, and what would be presented here tonight. Today is Monday. So today, both Principal Cheresnik and Melissa Giroux have let the Ripton community know that they've come to the place where they're not able to remain in their positions at Ripton. They have asked me to try to work with them to determine transitions possible for them to move out of their positions and onto something different. So that obviously has complicated the circumstance. I'm not sure that the concern regarding the K-1-2 curriculum that was in place initially has been resolved, but it has certainly been set aside in an effort to ensure that community support for the school, which is loved, does not lose grades, that students don't have to endure the dislocation that can occur, and that unintended negative consequences that might stem from those things can be avoided. So where we are now is that we have 6 grades of students, and we will shortly have 2 teachers on staff. And so I need the board's guidance about that. So if anything, the curricular situation that we were discussing on the 9th has amplified significantly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Point of clarification for those people who don't know, the teacher that resigned was teaching.
Kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so at this time, I just would like to stress that it is the board's responsibility to really identify the path out of the current situation. So it's important for us to really, think about the kids, right? And really try at our very best to determine what is going to be the best path for those, to go forward, to deal with the current situation. What I would like to do is, if someone has kind of, I'm gonna let Mary Heather.
Well, I have a question. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if it would be appropriate to allow folks to ask Dr. Baker questions.
Sure.
Before
We can do that.
contemplate any solutions.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
If that's
I was going to do that once we had a motion, but we can do it now. Questions? Joanna.
So without naming any specifics, the feedback from the kindergarten and 1st grade parents was that there's no one size fits all, but if you could indicate with a percentage of how many parents would agree to a move, how would you quantify it?
I don't think I could answer that because that's not the question that I asked. You know, I think what I posed to the kindergarten and first grade parents was if the board chooses to take an action that that changes where your child goes to school, what would be important about that action? You know, given your family dynamics, given where you work, what's possible that your child, what's important regarding your specific child. So what is important to know and understand about that? Every parent's preference would be to remain, at the Ripon Elementary School. There's no question about that. So that was the nature of the structure of our conversation.
Mary Heather.
In your summary, Dr. Baker, you were talking, or you had mentioned after having talked with kindergarten and first grade families that we have some, I guess I get, and I say this as somebody who's a little more familiar with just kids on plans and what students need when they're on plans. I guess I'm just wondering, if you have, the thing that comes to mind is, the requirement that ACSD has to provide the least restricted learning environment for students who are served by plans. And so I guess my question to you is it possible to have a situation where you've got a small population of students where that requirement is not met, is that something that would be necessary for the district to kind of contemplate as they're contemplating a solution moving forward? I mean, like I said, I asked this because I know that's something that has to be considered, and when you're talking about small classroom environments, it just seems like that could be a major bump in the road in terms of the problem solving here. So I guess I'm wondering if that's an element.
I think what I could say about that is that it was not the staff's recommendation that K-1 students were together in a single cohort when they were either 4 or 5 in number. That recommendation never changed through the process. So it would not be my recommendation now in terms of how the board goes about considering its constraints when solving the problem.
Steve.
Thank you.
Dr. Baker, the kind of framework was that there would be room at Salisbury for K-1 to move. If given the special needs, would Mary Hogan serve as a better receptacle because they do have a lot of people on staff to support. They have a lot of staff there already that if somebody had more needs or higher needs, that would be a better fit for them than Salisbury.
Are you asking me for my recommendation as to how to handle the transfer of students if that's what you choose to do, or help me?
No, did you ask the K-1 parents, the ones that you said had varying needs? You said that not one size fits all.
Correct.
Was that proposed to them that they could, that we could potentially?
We talked through all options.
Okay, great.
And in those options, the very distant second preference for parents, the primary preference for all parents was to remain at Ripton Elementary School. It wasn't close. The distant second preference varied tremendously depending upon the way that the parent viewed where their child was and what would be most important. So I would encourage the board to honor that feedback and take it very seriously.
Suzanne, and then Jamie.
Sorry, Jamie.
It was a tongue.
It was a tie. So my heart bleeds for the K-1-2s, knowing that their teacher has asked for either a change of assignment or has resigned. I don't remember the exact wording. But at the same time, legally, can we operate a school without an administrator within it? And how would we go about providing for what these students and their families need if we don't have appropriate and licensed staff?
So, by statute, at school shall have a principal. You have to have a principal. We understand that there will be a period of transition. That is something that, I hope to work out with both of the professionals that have expressed their desire to move on. I think that's something that we'll have to consider together in the short term. We can find internal coverage that can stabilize the situation, and I think the most pressing question I would want the board to be considering is the education of the kids. The administration at this point, I think, is somewhat secondary, which feels strange to say on some level, but I think understanding the right direction relative to the education of the kids is what I would encourage you to place your focus on tonight.
Jamie, you're up.
Yeah, Jamie. Thank you.
I have a question about that I think is about personnel. I don't know.
It's the same way.
Whether to ask it or not, but I feel like a low information voter. Like I don't feel like I have a good, like I did out of work to see this today, checked my email and found this out. And I feel a little bit I was like a little surprised, as I'm sure other people were. And so I have questions about that I don't know whether to ask them right now in public. So I just putting it on the table to try to figure out how to talk about the situation, because it seems like some information about it is important without violating any code of conduct. My second point is that sometime in the last couple of years, there was, some of the details here, there was a school, was it Shoreham, where we didn't have a teacher for a while. I think it was a second grade classroom. And what did we do then? Like it feels like there's some part of me that this feels like an emergency, and some part of it feels like, well, this is like people have resigned their positions before, and so what do we do in that circumstance? Or you know what I'm saying? Like I guess I'm trying to resist the urge to be like in emergency mode and try to figure out what do we do when we have to fill vacancies. So like how would maybe we respond to this in the same way we respond to those other things.
I remember Shoreham, if you will.
It depends on, I can give you what we would do in any other vacancy if you like. And
Sure.
then you sound like you know the Shoreham.
A little bit.
It was Shoreham second grade, I think, right?
Yeah, it was second grade.
Yeah.
So what I recall, and obviously it was a few years ago, with the second grade, the principal actually taught the second grade class for quite a period of time. And then there was one of our coordinators from the elementary level.
Elementary year coordinator.
Yeah, she then taught it kind of part-time as well.
Okay. And that lasted for a bit of time.
It lasted for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, right. Okay. And just to follow up my first point.
I can add though that there was I think I actually subbed that class, and it was tough, and the kids really weren't getting what they needed. So I'm not sure. I would assume that it was an ideal situation. I'm no judge of it, but I had heard that that was, something that had to be rectified, and kind of followed those kids into third and fourth grade.
Yeah.
Even though there was physically a person in the room. I'm not sure, and again, I'm not the judge of it, but what I heard was that, from the principal, or, the superintendent at the time, because I asked him about it, was that it wasn't really the ideal situation, and,
Yeah.
that principal's gone now.
It didn't sound ideal, yeah. Would you mind, Barbara, if I just emailed you the question I was going to ask about the personnel thing, and you can decide how to ask it, or if you think it's appropriate?
I mean, you can do that.
Okay, because it feels like it's burning, and trying to figure out how to resolve it, so.
But actually, that's probably not a good thing, because it's a public record for you to email
Yeah,
me.
just point of order,
Yeah.
anything involving personnel,
It's-
I just don't think is appropriate, so.
Yeah,
an
not in
HR.
open session.
It's an HR.
It's an HR issue, and
Chip?
Ellie's had her hand up for
Oh,
a
yeah.
while. I don't
Okay, I'm
know if-
sorry. Thank you.
Where the order is, but.
Yeah. Do you mind,
No, fine.
Ellie?
Thank you. I guess I'm also feeling like conflicted because some of the questions that are burning in my mind are personnel type questions, and so it's difficult to know what I can say on here or not. So I'm feeling stuck, I guess. Maybe I'm gonna think about how I want to put these things forward, and then maybe raise my hand again.
Okay, thank you, Ellie. Chip?
And I also felt the same way. I feel like after our discussion a week ago, and that we delegated or permitted or policied the superintendent to go out and collect data to help us decide how best to educate this small group of students. And then when it came across today that we had 2 resignations, I sort of said, whoa, where does this all come from here, and how is this occurring? So as a board member, I was sort of blown away by it. And I was struck by a public comment where someone mentioned they were disappointed in the school, not in the Ripton school, but in the fact that 2 people resigned, and not just personally, but also whatever led to that. So I realize we can't talk about that in open session, but it is very confusing to me at this point. And for me to make some sort of an action without that sort of background knowledge, I find it really awkward.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't mean you have to bring, I just pointed up that, this hits us as quick as it's hit everybody else.
Yeah, yeah. I think, that's why, in your packets, you have the material that both Meg and Melissa sent out to the community, so that you have what they've chosen to share publicly, which is what can be shared publicly.
Right.
I can report on what I've been told, which is that the conversations have become more than these employees can tolerate. And as hard as it is to digest all of these different pieces, I don't see those actions being undone. So we will need to make a decision about how to structure the educational opportunities for the kindergarten, first graders, and second graders in Ripton. That is what I need the board's guidance on tonight.
Mary Heather?
I guess I'm wondering if now, I mean, obviously that's the immediate matter before us. Questions or not, we have to figure out, you know, what the remainder of the year is going to look like for these kids. And I'm wondering, I guess I'll just share how I'm interpreting it, and you know, maybe we can use this as a launch pad to put forward a motion so we can actually discuss, you know, some options. But I mean, obviously there's the do nothing option where, you know, Dr. Baker stated earlier, we've got six grades and 2 teachers, and no administrator. And so we have to, I just don't see that as a viable option. The other option would be to try to fill those positions that have now been vacated. Obviously fill them in the short term, but also the long term. Like Jamie was alluding to, you know, how would we pivot to respond to that? Or we contemplate what we were discussing last week, movement of students to ensure that everybody in kindergarten, first, second, is in an acceptable learning environment for this year. And you know, I suppose there's some range about what that movement would look like, but it seems to me like those are the options ahead of us. I don't know, maybe I missed something, but I'll just sort of underscore what I said last time. I don't think we're going to be able to bring a big architecture to problem solving here, you know, redrawing boundaries, or I still feel like that's a question for maybe academic year 25-26. We like, I don't take lightly this responsibility that we have as a board to provide acceptable learning environments for our students. And I worry about failing at that and potentially exposing the district to legal problems if we fail to do that. This is of the utmost importance, is resolving this immediate problem before us. So I guess I don't.
Barb,
Yeah.
Joanna, I thought Joanna.
Did you have your
Did
hand?
you raise your hand or?
Ellie's hands back up.
Oh, Ellie.
And then I'll.
Okay.
And then I'd like to get mine too.
Yeah. And then Ellen.
All right, thank you guys for waiting a minute for me. So I guess what I'm thinking, how I can voice this without speaking directly to personnel issues and such, is that I'm feeling a little bit what to do in direction from the board on how to go forward, when I feel like to consider what those options are and to make an informed decision, we really need to be hearing from the families, from the community, and from the teachers and administrators in the affected schools of the solutions that they have come up with and what they think. Their people, I believe, have answers to what the solutions in these situations are, and I would feel like we're doing a disservice to think that as a board that we have those answers of what the right way is to move forward without really having evaluated the input from the input. I don't know how to get that information to help make decisions, so I'm feeling stuck.
Let Ellen go.
Yeah, Ellen?
Yeah, hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I would also just point out, this might not be productive in moving the conversation forward, but when we met last week, and again tonight, Wendy, you let us know that it seemed as though the K2 decision that was made in the spring, which it sounds like made under prior leadership, was not as inclusive or collaborative as it could have been, or at least the communication around that decision or after it was not terribly helpful. But that was something that was not supported by the parents. And last week, Wendy, you said that something that really stuck with me is that in a difficult situation like this one, if there's going to be any success, it has to come from having all parties on board and helping to make it a success. And what we are now contemplating now, we understand to be something that all of the parents are against, that there is no second option that parents support. And I'm taking that very seriously. I don't know what the solution is, but we're basically choosing between two solutions where we lose key partners in the success of a school, any school environment, and certainly in the success of students. And I'm taking that very, very seriously as well.
Can I have a
Yes,
clarification?
yes, you can.
Ellen, just a couple of clarifications, if I may. What I believe I've stated is that the decision for the grade configurations for the school, there was not agreement. There was a process that I have seen that solicited input both in person and virtually from all parents on a number of different configurations. However, the single configuration, that no single configuration received the support of all parents. The configuration that was moved forward that is now in place included. The parents who did not feel good about that configuration, some of them continued into this year to express their concern, and apparently in such a manner that it distracted the professionals from their responsibilities to a great degree. So I just wanted to clarify that. The other clarification I want to offer in response to your comment is that my suggestion about it takes everyone is certainly applied broadly, but it was particularly offered last week when it comes to classrooms that have more than 2 grades. It is very difficult to pull together the curricular expertise that allows 3 grades of students to make grade level progress in multiple content areas. And that assignment is the only assignment of its kind in Addison Central. There are many 2-grade classrooms that we have throughout the district. That is the only 3-grade classroom. In order to prepare for that to be successful, there were many steps taken. The teacher was given additional professional development opportunities, mentorship opportunities. The general ed paraeducator in the school was solely dedicated to that classroom as supports, to name a few. What is essential in order for a classroom that has that level of difficulty to succeed is also the support of the parents, the patience of the parents, their support for the teacher that is doing their very best work at any given time. And that appears to have not been sufficient in this case in order for the teacher, as she's mentioned, to feel she can do her work and ultimately to feel that she can stay. So it is